EA has just dropped the La Liga SBC, and in this video, I want to help you guys figure out whether or not it is going to be worth it for you guys to do that SBC. We'll talk about some individual SBCs in that League SBC that are actually going to be profitable for you guys to do every single time. We'll take a look at some sample solutions for those SBCs that are going to be super cheap to do. We'll talk about the number of boards and walkouts that you guys can expect to get using statistics and talking about the pack odds. And then finally, we'll talk about when to buy/sell the cards that you have either as investments or if you're looking to pick them up so they can do the SBC for super cheap. We'll lay out a calendar and timelines for when you guys want to sell that. All that and more coming right up. What's up guys, it's Jamie aka the FUD Economist, and on this channel we do a bunch of breakdown videos where we talk about ways that you guys can maximize your coin total as well as your FIFA knowledge. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. As I'm sure you guys know, the two players that EA released as part of this were the 90 rated Casemiro and then the 89 rated Aspas. To help you guys decide whether or not this is worth it for you guys to do, what I've done is I've gone through every single team in La Liga and their SBC, and I've calculated the total cost of the SBC, and then I've used the pack spreadsheet that I have, which basically looks at the contents of every single pack in the game and then calculates the average cost and reward value based on the contents of the pack that we sort of know, and then the expected values of these sort of different contexts and the different resale values of those different types of contents. There's a lot of sort of math behind it, but you can find a link to the pack spreadsheet in the description of the video if you want to sort of double check my work. But if you just want to trust me, basically I have everything aggregated here. It looks like the La Liga SBC is going to cost you somewhere in the range of 250,000 to 300,000 coins. I think a happy medium is somewhere in the range of like 275,000 coins, as you see our total cost right there in that first column, or the second column rather, under cost. You'll see the different rewards going down the second column. It actually isn't bad. It's leaning heavily towards player cards, which is nice. So there's a good chance you have a lot of SBC fodder that you can recycle back into 81 plus packs and 82 plus packs, which is nice. Usually it is sort of a pain in the butt if you have a lot of consumables because they're annoying to sell just because you have to relist them a bunch of times usually, and they aren't something that you can recycle back into player SBCs, which is very popular amongst some people that like to do something called crafting these days. We'll have a separate video on that possibly coming up in the future. Also, the store value, if you were to add up the sort of the coin value, every single one of these packs is just around 400,000. It's probably going to be a little bit higher because some of these don't have store values. Like for example, the small rare gold players pack has never been offered in the store. It's only offered as rewards for an SBC, so I don't have a value for that. In terms of FIFA points, sort of something similar. It's going to be 6,700 FIFA points, which is roughly somewhere in the range of $55 worth of FIFA point value, if you will. And then the stuff that we really care about, the quick sell value. So if you were to take everything that you were to get in these packs and then automatically quick sell them, which I don't see why you would do that, but it's going to get you somewhere in the range of 80,000 coins back. So which isn't bad, but the thing that we really care about is on average, considering that you have basically just above average pack luck or more or less average pack luck, you're going to see somewhere in the range of 125,000 coins coming back to you at the end of the day after opening up all these packs. So again, this is considering that you don't pack anything crazy, you're not getting like crazy big walkouts or anything like that, but you're on average you can sort of safely say that you're probably going to get at least 125,000 coins back. So what you can sort of conclude from that is, sort of in this box right above me, is that so if you're spending 274,000 coins, you're getting back 125,000 coins, that you're going to be down 150,000 coins. However, the fact that these guys are 90 rated and 89 rated respectively means that they have SBC value, right? So you can take these cards, say you don't like them down the line a month's time, and they've just released an icon SBC that you're really excited about going and doing. You can take these cards, and because they're high rated, they have value, right? Because you don't have to go out and now buy another 90 rated or an 89 rated card because you already have this one in your club. So you can assign a value of about 54,000 coins and about 48,000 coins roughly to both Casemiro and Aspas respectively, adding potentially another 50,000 roughly of value to that SBC, bring you to a rough cost, if you did want to consider that as part of your cost to reward ratio, of just about 100,000 coins for both of these. So one thing that people tend to want to know is how many boards and how many walkouts can I expect to get from this slew of packs from this League SBC if I were to do all the packs. And obviously by boards and walkouts, I mean 83 plus rated cards and 86 plus rated cards, respectively. And what we can do, since I was able to calculate on another video an expected value formula for the number of boards and walkouts for these future star cards, I was able to use that formula and adapt it to the rare gold cards of different rating and the drop rates for that. So if you guys want to go check my math on that, I'll leave the link to that down in the description. But if you want to assume that I'm right, then you can just sort of come with me and sort of we can look at the values that I've calculated here in this little green box. You can see that for the odds of an 83 plus or a board, that I have an expected value of just about 6 from this whole slew of pack opening. So you can expect to get somewhere in the range of like maybe 5 to 7 walkouts, or sorry, not walkouts, but boards, that 83 plus in this pack opening. And then I also have a 0.71 expected value for the number of 86 pluses, which means you're somewhere in the range of a 70% chance of getting a walkout in this whole pack opening, which, to be fair, actually isn't that bad in terms of your odds, right? So you could consider yourself relatively unlucky if you didn't get a walkout in this. I'm curious to see if you guys did get one or you didn't get one. Please let me know down in the comments. It's always fun to hear you guys' stories. I put something out earlier today about there was a 1 in 3,470 chance of packing a walkout in a 5K pack, and the number of people that responded to me with pictures of them packing Ronaldo, Neymar, all these crazy cards in packs made me want to go ask them for their lottery numbers. But yeah, just make me jealous. So obviously we've seen that the overall cost to reward ratio for these packs is going to leave us at just about 100,000 coins in the hole, which means that the players that we're going to get back are going to be the determining factors in whether or not we want to do this SBC, right? So whether or not Casemiro and Aspas are worth somewhere in the range of 100,000 coins is going to determine whether or not we do the whole SBC. Now, however, that doesn't necessarily mean that individual SBCs aren't going to be worth it for us. And what I've done is I've aggregated the top 6 SBCs, individual SBCs that I think have a good enough cost to reward ratio that justify you guys going out and doing them. Generally, what I do is if a SBC has a cost to reward ratio of just about above 0.7, then I will sort of use that as justification. Well, it's at least good enough for us to go and do it. Obviously, we would want a cost to reward ratio above 1, and there's only one currently SBC that has a cost to reward ratio above 1. You can see right up there, it is Celta FC, Celta Vigo, maybe. I think that's the name of it. And so that would be one that you would definitely want to do. But generally what I do is I say if it has a cost to reward ratio of above 0.7, then you would want to go ahead and do it. Obviously you can see here, so what I mean by cost to reward ratio, by the way, if you weren't 100% familiar, it's you take the cost of the SBC and then you divide that, or so you take the reward of the SBC and then you divide that by the cost. And if your ratio is above 1, then obviously you have something that's in favor of the cost. I probably should change it to a reward to cost ratio. I don't know why I have it as cost to reward ratio. That's just something I've said it for the longest time. Anyway, it doesn't really matter the nomenclature. You'll see that you definitely want to do the Celta FC or Celta Vigo SBC. You want to do the Getafe and the Real Sociedad, and then as you get down to Girona and Espanyol and Villarreal, maybe those things get a little bit more iffy. It is kind of interesting to see that for the likes of Celta Vigo, you have about a 20% chance of getting a 83 plus. I think that is by far the best SBC out here in terms of cost to reward ratio and plus odds of you getting a decent pack pull of it. Villarreal has an argument because that is a 33% chance of you getting an 83 plus, which is obviously pretty valuable. So that you could make the argument that just for the fun of it, you might want to go try that one. The other ones are sort of smaller packs that aren't going to have as high of an upside, but obviously are pretty good in terms of cost to reward ratio. So now we're just going to go quickly through some of these SBCs, some of the solutions. If you guys want to screenshot them, I'm not going to be going too in depth into these. But basically, you can see that the Celta Vigo SBC is going to get you about 660 coins worth of profit on average. Some of the sample solutions you can see here, it's going to cost you about 7,000 coins to do it. The Getafe SBC is going to, again, cost you about 7,000 coins. You're going to be losing, on average, about 850 coins when you do it. But obviously, it's kind of fun to roll the dice sometimes. And it's going to be similar things for the Real Sociedad SBC, about 7,000 coins. 850 coins worth of loss. And as I scroll through the Girona FC, I do want to remind you guys that the solutions that I'm showing you guys right here aren't the end all be all. Sometimes some of the players in here will be price fixed and their supply will be super pinched, so you might want to sort of see if you can get creative with the solutions. Maybe you could even find a cheaper solution. As we're looking at Girona FC here, you're seeing that you're going to be losing on average about 1,840 coins, which again isn't ideal, but again, there's the upside of it too. You could get lucky. And then the next one is Espanyol. Once again, again, losing about 1,850 coins, but as I said before, you have the chance of rolling the dice. And then the Villarreal SBC, obviously, this has a pretty good pack that you can get back, but once again, losing about 2,700 coins on average on this one. So now let's talk about the individual players, and this is where we're going to be able to decide whether or not this SBC is worth it. Obviously, we're already in the hole about 100,000 coins, so doing the entire set of the SBCs is going to be determined on whether or not we can place confidently 100,000 coin valuation on these SBCs. Obviously, we're taking into account that there is a 50,000 valuation on both of these because we're assuming that at some point down the line, we're going to be able to turn them into an Icon SBC or a Footies SBC or some sort of SBC that's going to get some value back that was held in the rating. So now the real question is, are these guys worth about 100,000 coins in their cards outright? And so what I've done is I've broken down their stats on Foothead. I've highlighted some stats that are going to be really important, and then I've compared them to the prices and the stats of their alternatives, and we'll sort of try and decide from there. So taking a look at Casemiro here, obviously the biggest thing that's pointing out, and we're sort of addressing the elephant in the room, he is not very fast, right? He's got 61 acceleration, which is probably the most important of the two pace stats, and he has 68 sprint speed, which also isn't fantastic. Obviously, you can boost that with a shadow, but most other attackers, most other midfielders are also going to be boosted with some sort of pace, or don't even need the boost because they're already crazy fast. And at this point in the game, 65 pace overall is going to be something that is going to catch him out quite frequently, unfortunately. However, obviously he has a lot of very good stats to sort of work around that. The likes of the 89 interceptions are the first thing that jumps out to me. That's very, very good for a CDM. 89 interceptions is basically the stat that determines how good that player is at making defensive movements and covering when you're not necessarily on the ball controlling that player. That's a pretty big deal. It also determines how wide their interception radius is. So as a defender, as a center defensive mid, that's a very, very important stat. Taking a look at some other things, especially as we head into the new meta, if you will, where a lot of stuff is going to likely be coming in the air with the lob for parvo crosses. The fact that he is 6'1" and has 90 jumping is very, very promising. Combine that with 91 strength and 88 aggression, he's probably going to be very, very dominant in the air. You also like to see that he's very good defensive stats in the form of that 92 standing tackle and 89 sliding tackle, although to be fair, sliding tackle isn't that important this year. It's very good passing stats, 88 distribution, 88 passing on short, and then 85 long passing, so he'll be able to distribute very well. And then obviously he's got very good shooting too, 93 shot power and then 85 long shots. So if you're outside the box, taking a shot with him is something you can absolutely do. A couple more negatives though: the agility and the balance aren't fantastic, and that's going to make him feel a little bit sluggish combined with his pace. And then you also take a look at, he's got 2-star skill moves, which obviously you're not really going to be pulling too much off of them. At least he can do a ball roll. And then the 3-star weak foot is the one thing that really hurts it for me. If he had 4-star weak foot, he'd be much more valuable, but the fact that he's going to be losing essentially 40% of his overall stats whenever he's doing anything on his weak foot is obviously detrimental to what he can be doing. And it gets even worse sort of when you can start comparing them to some of the other cards that you could be replacing him with. Obviously, you could just replace him with his 135,000 coin UCL live card, and the difference, sorry, not UCL live, just UCL card, and the difference between the stats on these are not super significant. You get a 2+ pace boost, which is nice, and then you have a 5+ shooting boost. And to be fair, you're not really going to be using him in too many advanced positions, so while you will take in the odd long shot with him, that 5 boost to his shooting isn't going to be super big of a deal, in my opinion, in terms of is he worth sort of putting untradeable value into him. So that's kind of a tough starting point. You also have the fact that guys like Condombia and Partey in the La Liga are also very, very dominant CDMs. There's actually a couple more options that I wasn't even able to fit in this graphic, but in terms of cost to reward ratio, I would actually say that I would prefer to have someone like Condombia or Partey, simply because they're faster, they have better agility, and defensively they're sort of comparable if you put the appropriate chemistry style on them. Maybe you could make the argument then, okay, is he maybe the best Brazilian CDM? And then it actually gets even tougher in terms of competition. You guys have someone like Fabinho, Paulinho, who on stats wise, Casemiro may look better than Paulinho, but I'm here to tell you that Paulinho is one of the best center mids in the game. Just ask anyone in the community that's used him. He is absolutely fantastic. I don't know what it is about his card. It's glitched. If you're making a Brazilian team, 100% recommend that you use someone like Paulinho. Try to fit him in your team. I know he's from the Chinese league, so he's kind of difficult to link with players, but if you're all making an all Brazilian team, he is an absolute staple, especially if you're running him at CDM in a box-to-box role, because he actually is pretty good going forward as well. And then obviously Allen, his UCL card, someone that's been super dominant in the beginning of the year and remains dominant, I think is probably going to be better than someone like Casemiro. Obviously lacks the height, but you could do that with Fabinho or Paulinho if you really wanted to. So for me, this Casemiro card is a really tough ask to put 100k worth of value in it, unless you're really looking to get packs and sort of feed beat a pack addiction. Maybe you want to open up for one to watch, or you want to stave yourself off from doing Lunar Near packs, or maybe you further down the line you are hoping to do this for maybe like a team of the season or something like that. If you're not doing it to save packs or open up packs and it's outright, this is not worth it just for Casemiro. So unfortunately, it's going to be a pass on me for him. Now getting into Iago Aspas, the diminutive striker for Celta Vigo. It's time to decide whether or not he is worth 100k. Obviously, we decided that Casemiro wasn't really going to be worth it, at least for me, in terms of the things that I think are important. Taking a look at some of his stats, obviously the first thing that jumps out to you, especially as an attacker, is that he's got 3-star skill moves and 3-star weak foot. Obviously, if you don't use skill moves, you can sort of put that 3-star skill moves off to the side and not really pay attention to it. For me, that's a pretty big downside. The fact that he's 3-star skill moves is a big negative for me. Obviously 3-star weak foot is going to be a bad thing for anyone, no matter what. If you get him on that right foot of his, he's going to have a 40% stat, minus to anything that he does. So that means if he has 99 finishing, for example, and then that means he's going to have somewhere in the range of 59 finishing when he's on his right foot, which is obviously a really big deal. A huge negative for a striker, especially when you're trying to be dynamic, as you need to be this year to score goals. Obviously some of the good things though, he's got very good agility. He's going to be quick on his feet. Combine that with his great acceleration, he's going to be sort of difficult to deal with if you're good at left stick dribbling. He's got great finishing, 95 finishing. He's got pretty good long shots as well as volleys, and he's got very good positioning at 94, which means he'll sort of find pockets of space for you. He's got decent short passing, so if you wanted to put him in a cam position, he wouldn't be terrible there, although I think he would do better at a center forward because his long passing is actually really poor. So unless you were committed to boosting that with a significant passing chemistry style, I think he'd be suffering there if he was asked to do anything longer than a 15-20 yard pass. His reactions are actually really solid at 90, although as we're getting to some of the more poor stats, I mean, he's 5'9", so he's not going to fit too well into this new meta if it does become a very cross-heavy gameplay style at the highest level. His balance is 77, which for a player of his sort of diminutive height and it's not great strength of 69, if he gets pushed off the ball, combine that with 77 balance, and he's going to be frustrating to use because he's going to get pushed off by most players in the game. And now things get even worse when you start comparing him to other cards in the game. You can take a look at his latest inform, which to be fair, he has some decent boosts on, but it's tough to justify some of the stat upgrades just for the untradeable value that you're basically putting into a card like this, and especially when you compare it to some of the other options that you have. You could take a look at, for example, the Promes card that was just released, that man of the match card. I would anticipate that card is going to come down, especially if Promes gets another inform. I'm obviously recording this on Monday, so I don't know if that's happening yet, but someone like Ben Yedder as well, another La Liga alternative, someone that is really good and has 5-star weak foot and is tremendous for people in this game. Is actually one of the most used informs in the game just because of how much people like him. So that's a tough one in terms of whether for me, I would actually prefer other strikers in La Liga. In an outright sort of comparison, I would probably take Promes. I would probably take Ben Yedder for me, mainly because the 3-star skill moves is a problem for me. If 3-star skill moves isn't a problem for you, then honestly I think you could make the argument that this guy is actually good enough. So if you never use like La Croquetas, you don't use Burba spins, you don't use any of those skill moves, then I think you could make the argument that he is good enough to get in to justify you doing this for your La Liga striker. Now getting into, I made a mistake here in the graphic, that should say Spanish striker alternatives, but someone like Diego Costa, Inaki Williams, and Rodrigo all are really tough competition. In fact, they're all from La Liga as well. Someone like Diego Costa and Inaki Williams are going to be sort of different players to someone like Iago Aspas, in the sense that Diego Costa is sort of like big, he's sort of a bully, he's not going to be quite as agile as Iago Aspas, but he could fit into the meta a little bit better. So if you were going to try and fit to the meta of potentially crossing the ball quite a bit, Diego Costa is someone you're going to go for in terms of his scream card. Inaki Williams, once again, a big sort of physical, tall, not as quite as agile as someone like Iago Aspas, but once again will fit into sort of that meta and will be super quick as well. And then Rodrigo is someone that I can sort of more compare to this Aspas card in terms of his play style, his sort of the way he moves on the ball would be similar to him. Obviously not quite as good finishing stats, so you could be justify the upgrade in terms of payment. So once again, if you have if you don't really care about 3-star skill moves, then I think you could justify doing this card for the La Liga SBC overall, and putting in that 100k worth of value into him in terms of the profit that you're not going to be getting back from the cards. And finally, it's time to talk about when you guys want to buy and or sell cards to make sure that you're doing this SBC at their cheapest prices possible. So generally when it comes to League SBCs, you want to sell early the rare gold cards and the non-rare gold cards. So basically the gold cards. And the reason for that is because the gold cards usually get resupplied very quickly, either from Thursday rewards, Monday rewards, or any sort of promo that comes out where there are gold cards. They do gold promo packs, right? They'll resupply the cards, and the supply will get wiped out, and the demand isn't there anymore. It isn't as concentrated as it is in the beginning of the SBC coming out, and then the gold cards will drop down to sort of a more equilibrium, lower price than what they were when they first come out, and people get excited about the SBC and the prices go up. You generally want to wait to sell the silver cards, because a lot of people actually invest in the silver cards. They over invest in the silver cards, and when they list them, the reason that these silver cards are so expensive when you do wait for a long time is because their supply is super low. And if you don't have all these traders that are trying to sell their silver cards at the exact same time, then you're going to have the effect of the silver cards having really low supply, which made them expensive in the first place, actually play out once again. So in terms of selling these cards, you want to sell the gold cards relatively early. So if you're watching this on a Tuesday, which was when I'm planning to put it out, I would probably start trying to sell it then. You'd also try to want to sell it on Wednesday. You could also see a window for wanting to sell these gold cards potentially if they drop a marquee matchup on Thursday that requires La Liga cards. They tend to do that for some reason. When they drop a Liga SBC, they turn around and the Thursday after they have marquee matchups that require La Liga gold cards or whatever league they just dropped. I would imagine that we could potentially see like a Saudi Arabia Liga marquee matchup and then a La Liga marquee matchup, just because for whatever reason they tend to do that. I think it's sort of a little jab at the investors. But also you would want to buy these gold if you're going to do them for the SBC as well in the morning when the SBC, or when the weekend league rewards rather, just come out in the morning at 8 a.m. UK time. That's when obviously people are going to be opening up their packs and throwing up the La Liga cards onto the market, and that's going to be a time where obviously a ton of supply is going to push prices down. Heading into February, obviously I think there's going to be a pretty good window to sell on Friday and even Thursday maybe, if people see that a lot of these cards are super cheap. In terms of the gold cards, they might go out and start doing these SBCs, and the demand for the silver cards, which you also need to complete the SBC, might go up a little bit. Obviously, if they have rewards on marquee matchups on Thursday that are silver packs, then that's going to push down the prices of the silvers just a little bit, which is why I didn't necessarily recommend selling the cards on Thursday. However, I do recommend taking a look and seeing if you want to sell them on Friday, because I think if people want to open up packs for the potential one to watch promo that is coming out on Friday, then they're going to turn to the Liga Santander or La Liga SBC and say, hey, I can get some packs from this, and that could push the prices of the silvers that are required for those those SBCs. That could push them up. You also want to sort of sell your I think sort of the last sort of window that you'd be looking to sell your cards would be Sunday and or Monday for these gold cards, and then it's sort of basically throughout the next 2 weeks, then avoiding Thursday just because there could potentially be marquee matchup rewards which give silver packs and which would resupply the silver cards. Other than that, you're basically looking to sell the silver cards throughout the next 2 weeks. No real rush to do either of those in terms of selling the silver cards. That's just about going to do it for this video. Hopefully you guys found it helpful. If you did, I would appreciate a like rating. This kind of stuff takes a long time to put together. If not, a dislike rating is absolutely fine, but I would appreciate if you did leave a dislike rating, you letting me know in the comments how I could improve to sort of help you guys out a little bit better to make these kinds of decisions, because obviously that's something I do a lot on my channel. If you guys do want to have access to more content like this, all you got to do is hit that subscribe button and you'll be notified whenever I put out another video just like this. But other than that, it's been Jamie, aka the FUT Economist, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.